Today in pre-cal we're learning about the unit vector, which is u. Remember, we've been talking about vectors being lowercase bold letters. U and now stands for the unit vector. And the unit vector can be found by finding the component form of the vector v, whatever vector you're given, over the magnitude of that vector v. That's how you can get the unit vector. We're going to look at some examples of how to do that. Number one, I want you to find a unit vector. In the direction of v, which is equal to -2, 5. Okay, to do that we're going to start by finding the component form, which we already have, which is -2, 5, over the magnitude, which is the square root of that -2 squared plus 5 squared. I'm going to leave the top alone for now. I'm going to work my way through the bottom. -2 squared is 4. Plus 5 squared is 25. So my magnitude is the square root of 29 over my two pieces. And that means my unit vector is -2 over the square root of 29, comma 5 over the square root of 29. And that is my unit vector in the direction of v. Okay, standard vectors. The standard unit vectors are two specific ones that we're going to label I and j. I is equal to 1, 0, and j is equal to 0, 1. Now we can use these to kind of simplify the way that we write some of our other vectors. So if I took the vector v, which is equal to v1, v2, and I wanted to write it in form of the standard vector, I would do v1 times 1, 0, plus v2 times 0, 1, and that would give me that I have vi, or v1i, plus v2j. Now the reason that I'm doing that is because v2 would be times 0, that'd be 0, and v2 times 1 would be v2, would just be the second part. Similarly, v1 times 1 would just be v1, and v1 times 0 would be 0. In this component, when I add those together, I get v1i plus v2j. Kind of something you need to accept as far as that's concerned. We do want to look at two examples like that. Let's start with the first one. Let u be the initial vector, or the vector with initial point. To -5, and terminal point -1, 3. And what I want you to do is to find me the component form of that vector and then write it in order of standard unit vectors. So to find component form, I'm going to do my terminal point minus my initial point, -1 minus 2, and then 3 minus -5, which becomes plus. -1 minus 2 is -3, and 3 plus 5 is 8. So to write that in component form, to get rid of basically those brackets there, I'm going to write it as -3i plus 8j. Basically, what used to be my x component goes with I, and what used to be my y component goes with j. I get rid of my parentheses or my brackets, and we are good to go from there. Okay, our last example, number 3. If u equals -3i plus 8j, and v equals 2i minus j, I want you to find 2u minus 3v. So now I want you to be able to go the other way. Let's start by just multiplying. So I've got 2 times u, which is -3i plus 8j, minus 3 times v, which is 2i minus j. I want to be sure I distribute all that out. 2 times -3 is -6i. 2 times 8 is 16j. Minus 3 times 2 is -6i. And minus a minus becomes a plus 3j. I have my i's in common, so I have -6i and -6i, which makes -12i. And then 16j and 3j makes 19j. Your assignment for this one is A16. That's page 457. It's numbers 34 to 38 even, and 44 to 48 even. Good luck, and let me know if you have questions.